Hello and welcome to episode 515 of the Awesome Comics Podcast, the place where the small press and beyond makes one hell of a big noise. My name is Vince Hunt, and joining me as always is the artist, creator, and the man who never stops. He's like the Energizer Bunny of comics. It's Dan Butcher.
Hello.
He also does the Comic Vanguard. I completely because I was too happy with my Energizer Bunny joke that I left off. You're an amazing comic, Dan.
Thank you.
And there is a man that if he was going to cosplay as one of the SpongeBob SquarePants characters, he would definitely be the crab because he's looking a little red at the moment. Is Tony Esmond? Tony Esmond.
I've been on holiday and I got sunburnt.
I mean, we are not meant.
Winston, Sexy Beach.
We are not meant for the outside, are we? We paste.
Somebody is telling me you should show your gooch to the sun. That's a thing.
Who? Look, stop believing everything that people tell you.
Yeah.
I know. Well, that's the internet for you, isn't it? Yeah, I just believe everything I read.
Yeah. Because there is a sort of a growing amount of people who are like, open up your bumhole to the sun and it'll make you feel
Who's
better.
advocating for that? What kind of fucking degenerate?
I don't know. I'll send you a link.
UK small press comics. You're to blame.
There's a zine in there somewhere.
As a zine, but it stops you being depressed, so they probably won't make a zine about it.
Yeah, I would say go past the centre spread. Oh dear, or the pull out.
I thought they said, "Wow."
No, that's a bit wrong.
If he was dubious about putting suntan lotion on that area and it got burnt. See, like that's
a bit of a greasy walk, wouldn't it? Imagine going for a good walk in that. It'd be a bit greasy, wouldn't it?
Oh, awful.
Dear.
Anyway,
we're here. This is the second week of the Three Amigos month.
I'd ask me what I had for lunch.
What did you have for lunch?
I had ratatouille, which I kept saying to the waitress, "I'll have the ratatouille, please," and she got pissed off at me.
What disturbs me, Dan, is how quickly you just walked right into that. You didn't question it.
No.
You didn't question it. Yeah. You didn't think this is going to go bad. You just did it straight off.
I welcomed it.
You welcomed it.
I'd had some Peter's bread with it. It's nice.
Peter's bread. Did you have any falafel?
I had falafel and hummus.
Oh, wonderful. We're all about healthy eating on this show.
We are indeed. Vegetarians.
Yep. Put on your SPF and eat your greens. Something.
I didn't use any. I don't use suntan lotion.
You're mental, man.
That's why I'm bright red.
That is absolutely insane. I essentially went out.
You can see me on camera.
Yeah. I went out. I went out and touched grass, which isn't euphemism for having a poo. Yeah. But I went outside.
Except without the GR.
I saw the sea. I saw sand.
Oh, nice.
And the sun was there. And then after an hour, I thought, I better go back now because it's a bit warm.
You put your foot in. Do you have a little paddle?
No, I didn't have a paddle today, but the paddle will be coming. Coming in.
The coming of the paddle. That's small press comic, fantasy comic.
Yeah. Beach Day, The Coming, which is probably a completely different film. But anyway, we're already in a good mood. Maybe it's because the sun has done something to our brains. But we've got a lot of comics to talk about this week.
Loads.
And a celebrity question. Our first ever celebrity question.
The new perhaps series of celebrity questions. If we find another celebrity to send. If I go on holiday with another celebrity.
If we can blackmail, ask someone to do it. No. So there's plenty of comics book chatter. And the celebrity question, not the question itself, because I feel we're going to have a real good talking point about that.
There's a lot to chew over on that.
But just the thought about comics celebrities got me thinking. So I may throw in another question for you two chaps later on before we get to the shout-outs. But I think we should just jump in both. And we've also got some great recommendations this week.
Yep.
And recommendations and a book that Dan wants to talk about that we're very intrigued. It's a big
well,
title.
I'm not that intrigued.
I'm intrigued to see what Dan says because I never know what he's going to say.
I'm sending this link. I'm sending the link of this episode to the creator just for laugh.
Yeah.
Like that.
And
nice work, guys.
He was like he was in the room.
Yeah.
But this week, yes, we to start this off, we're going to be talking about comics that you may not have heard of. Some of you might have, depending on where you are in the world, because these particular comics are from further afield, certainly further afield than a lot of the stuff that we cover. Isn't that right, chaps? This is
about as far as you can get, I think.
As far as you can get. And during the recording of episode 500, yeah, we got a chance to check out some comics, and we were gifted some comics by a lovely listener, and we promised to make a song and dance about it. And when we were like, Jesus Christ, there's loads of comics here, and it immediately switched us. We loved it because seeing these sort of books that completely you're unaware of. We're all in our bubbles, aren't we?
This whole thing, you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
There's books, small press comics from around the globe. And
there's always comics. Every week there's comics I've never seen before.
Yeah. Much like there's, American creators that have no idea of like the vibrant scene in the UK and the different types of, superhero comics, horror comics, everything that's happening in the UK. It feels like we're aware of all of it in the UK because...
I'll tell you what Americans don't know about is the history of British comics.
No.
They have not got a clue about Hotspur and Warlord and Battle and all that stuff. Not a fucking Scooby-Doo.
No.
Most of them. Yeah.
No, it's, even though we've kind of come to a similar place, the beginnings were very different. I imagine that's all over the world. Every country has their kind of comics origin story.
Yeah, and
their industry started.
Exactly. And I think a lot of it's down to how far and how well they travel. I know, like a lot of them are American listeners. They may know the 2000 ADs, and because that's the big one where certain things travelled beyond. We all know Judge Dredd. There was those counterpoints, but there was lots of stuff that just sort of went under the radar, or just didn't travel very well, or wasn't printed, or just didn't get widespread attention over there. Much like there's bazillion comics from continental Europe I am completely unaware of, because as we've always said on this show, they don't fucking get printed over here like they should do. And it's the same with a lot of there's American books that we don't see. We're completely. In fact, there's an awful lot of, especially independent and small press. We're completely unaware of that. People have been churning away. How many times have we said on the show we've been doing a review and be like, this is a book from 2015 or something like that. It's been going for years, that kind of thing. So it is, and I think comics, in terms of a lot of like media or product, comics have a real uphill struggle when it comes to travel. Does that make sense? Does that question make sense? And finding an audience...
The ones I've got do not apply specifically for an Australian audience, and I don't think. Well, they do apply to us because we should be interested in other countries, but they're specifically for an Australian audience. These ones. Yeah.
And I know because we're going to be highlighting like books. I mean, mine are from Hawaii. Tony's yours are from Australia, and I believe yours are as well, Dan, aren't they? Australian
I've
creators.
got 2 from Australia and 1 from New Zealand.
Same place, isn't
it? I love it when you say that.
Yeah. But it was just fascinating to see. We love discovering comics, but discovering like the different things that creators cover, and obviously this lovely listener picked out certain books. I think he directed certain books in certain directions, as people do when they meet us. They're like, "Wait, I think you'll like this."
Yeah, Tony, you'll like this. It's got boobs in it.
Yeah.
One thing off the rip on mine. There was the voice on it wasn't unique, as in it didn't feel. I don't know what an Australian comic is, but it felt more like it was written like an American comic.
Yeah, these minor American comic size, similar in format and color and everything.
Yeah.
When you think they're a little bit closer to Japan than we are, they followed the American tradition. Yeah.
But I think, and as always, as we talk about these topics. Massively uninformed. I don't know what I'm talking about. So a lot of this is hypothetical. But I'm just sort of thinking, in those boom days of like the 50s and 60s and 70s, as Marvel and DC, they basically just crossed the world, didn't they? Just absolutely crossed the world. And these comics were ending up in the newsagents, in the small shops. You know, we talked about over here. Your weekly newsagents is probably the same. You know, if it's like that for us, of course it's going to be like that for like Australia or things like that. Maybe not so much, but
I'm guessing there's a correlation between sort of America's sort of global and political power and the spread of their culture, which includes
propaganda. Yeah, I believe it's a phrase. Yeah.
But also another thing that goes into it, the language barrier. It's easier to transport.
What do you say?
That took me a moment. That did. But you know what I mean? There's no translation needed if it was in an English-speaking country. So immediately or a country that is predominantly English-speaking. But saying that, even within those countries, I know it's very, very true for a couple of the books that I got to check out, even though there may be English-speaking, there's a massive heritage and culture that goes beyond that isn't English-speaking. That isn't, it isn't Anglified in any kind of way. And that's one of the fascinating things that I had from reading my ones. Like, it was...
Yeah, I was interested to hear about that, like the stories from that part of the world.
Yeah, it's seeing the different cultures. And I'm going to preface this by saying this section and the ones we're going to talk about, we're not going to review them as such. I mean, I'm certainly not with mine. I'm not going in,
No, I want to talk about them.
But my recommends are coming at the end. But I mean, these are... It was fascinating for me to see this because... And I would say to everyone listening to this, if you can, get a comic book, even if it's just one issue, from a completely different culture that is culture specific. Because my ones were culture specific.
Gotcha, okay.
And so it becomes a different reading experience. I don't know if you guys found this, because it was like, I'm not just, let's just see what the Superman of this country is.
About mine. I can't, mine are like down the line.
They're just
American style comic books.
Interesting.
They're not talking about
mine, like a bit like Mark Abnett's books, actually, about the way he deals with the culture and the history and the legends and the myths and stuff. Mine's like that. Yeah, mine from above. He's a New Zealander, but from an Australian.
People reinterpreting myths from their place where they're born or raised. That's so interesting because like those stories have stuck around for generations, and you all sort of spin.
I wish we did it more, mate. Yeah, I wish it happened more here.
Yeah. And like, it's interesting, is it, when there's a lot of people crying out for we should hear more of this in these comics or more of that and in this particular comic. Why don't you actually look somewhere else and see people who are doing it in original comic books? Do you know what I mean? Like, it's...
I mean, the comics we were gifted. I don't know how. Well, to be fair, one of them did do a Kickstarter, but generally, I don't know how I'd get to see them. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's this the reach of small press is going to be relatively limited because of the fact that you're
no distribution model. These are attached to they're not attached to Diamond. Should we give a little summary of our comics, because we're talking a lot about them, but we're not saying what they're about.
Let's go for it.
Yeah. Who wants to go first?
Well, I mean, mine are from Hawaii, so I can. I mean, if you two want to jump in first, because if you both got
Okay.
Yeah. So mine are from what's called the Indigiverse, which is quite interesting, and it directly points at signposts to what he's trying to do here, the dude, and the creative team. So it's written by it's Dark Heart 1, 2, and 3, and then I've got one issue of Dreamwalker, which is another character within that Indigiverse. Written by Scott Wilson, art by Katie Houghton Ward, colors Justin Randall, editing and letters by Wolfgang Bilsma. In the text introduction, Scott talks about how indigenous art and oral traditions have long been part of the people of Australia, but long before people arrived in boats, and they wanted to make an Aboriginal superhero universe to shine a light on the positive sides of a culture that has had some negative light shone on it in recent years, I'm going to say. I mean, even over in the UK, we've heard about sort of maybe alcoholism and stuff like that, being rampant, being present in the community. And what you see immediately as you open the book, it's got a nice little introduction where he talks about that. And what you do is immediately you see there's a character called Warnu, who's indigenous person, body paint. He's got a sort of bead necklace, headband, and he's sitting by the fire. But what they do, the team on this, is they throw in language that I've never heard. So for example, the first panel in this says Warner the Elder Protector sits by the Gungura Jiwi, the fire, and it goes into that. So we get that lore thing going on. And what he does is he then goes into the dreaming, which I think I know about it, sadly, from the X-Men.
Same, yeah.
Yeah, when they went to Australia, and I forget, what's the guy who creates portals? I forget his name now.
Man, he's got the kind of the thing that he spins around.
Yeah, he's an indigenous person, isn't he?
Yeah, I can't recall what that is.
And it doesn't just stop there, this comic. It goes into something called Mamu, the Demons of the Night, and they're present outside of the main cities and towns. And Warnu actually fights them at one point and says, I don't know what they're doing in so close to civilization. They live out beyond the realm of, I guess, the white man, or the non-Aboriginal. And he sort of travels through time and space, and he travels in the dreaming to the future and sees this old couple in their caravan getting eviscerated by this group of Mamu demons. And then he travels back in time to prevent it. So it's an interesting time jump thing. But it is all the way through. The line all the way through it is about this. It's about this this culture, these myths surrounding it, their lives. There's even it suffers from. It doesn't suffer. It uses translation. So one of the demons says, "Ningija Malagari Bugla Thorodu Nagari," and it's translated as "white old man stinky" as they're killing him, and stuff like that. So it's a horror. It's superhero horror, but done through the lens of an indigenous person. Really interesting. I think it's a really strong first issue. And at the end of the first issue, spoilers, he gets challenged by another indigenous legendary creature person who turns up, and something happens to Warnu, and the consciousness is transferred into a young kid lying in bed, like a teenager lying in bed. So it moves it into the relatable world. So it's not just this sort of fantasy, the power, and that's a nice little twist at the end of issue one. We see that occasionally, don't we? Where the first issue is all about someone, and then they write him off, they kill him at the end of the first issue, and we realise it's actually about something. It's a little bit of a bait and switch on this one. Lovely design, I have to say. They've got a sort of consistent trade dress for the issues. The Indigiverse is almost a corner box with the number of the issue in it. Yeah, very professionally presented. I think these were kickstarted, or at least started that way. In the back, it's really interesting because it's got a glossary of Guni Yandi language used in Dark Heart issue 1. So Jurnali is a spear, Maringari is a white person, Thorawudu is stinky. It gives you a translation of what's going on, which I love all that stuff. Even whether it's a genuine language like we get here, or it's like stuff that we used to see in the Legion of Superheroes. I'm hooked by that sort of thing. So very competent, good storytelling, a cut above most small press we'll see, I'm going to say, and done with a bit of a love for the subject matter, which I think elevates it a bit more for me. Yeah. So the Indigiverse, it's an ongoing thing. I think there's a few different titles around it, but that's my one. There you go.
Nice one.
Nice. What did you have from Australia, Dan?
I've got 2 from Australia, and 1 from New Zealand. I'll go for the New Zealand one first, which is Chronicles of the Wasteland. I've got 3 issues here, created by Shane Evans, who does all the art duties, writing everything. So it's the one-man band. He does give a shout out to the proofreaders, which we do love them, because
that's quite nice that they shouted them out as well.
Yeah. It's kind of, the art style is very reminiscent. I'm going to say a little bit of you, V. I can see a little bit of like your style there, but also quite a lot of like Eastman and Lard's like TMNT stuff. Yeah. It's got like the heavy blacks. Everything's quite chunky and stuff. I'll hold it up to the camera. I'm not sure if you'll be able to see that. But,
okay, I get you. Yeah.
So think sort of Mad Max with kind of a lot more kind of mutants, way more violence. It tells a story of a chap who's kind of like the main hero, who kind of appears to be playing one side or the other. It's very violent, very brutal. I think this would be more of a comic for a kind of a younger teen. It's
right.
Very uncomplicated. I mean, there's good guys, there's bad guys. They're fighting, driving around in cars, doing Mad Max kind of stuff. The only thing I would give a word of caution against, there's quite a lot of the sexual assault stuff being bandied about, but doesn't actually go through with. Like, people get threatened to it, and then it doesn't happen. But it's like, oh man, you've got to be careful with that tonally when you're doing a comic, because
especially if you're aiming it at kids, like you just said.
I don't know if it is aimed at kids or not, but it feels like that's the kind of the level which it's playing with. Do you know what I mean? It's relatively uncomplicated. It's not like there's not big issues.
So aimed at kids, relatively uncomplicated, but has sexual assault allegations.
Yeah,
thrown about.
Like,
yeah, it's kind of
like
weird,
a female kind of gets chained up, and they're like, "Oh, boys, you can do what we want with her," and you're like, "Oh, fucking hell!" And then like she escapes, but it's like
maybe they're going to pay hungry hippos or something, you know.
things with the small press stuff is this hasn't been vetted by someone. This is one creator, so it can go off the fucking rails very quickly, and there's no kind of like governing body or editor to step in and say, "Whoa, hold on, mate, that's a bit." Like I said, it doesn't happen. It's kind of like, but sometimes you feel like, oh shit, that's on the cards, but it doesn't. It was a fun read. I kind of unlike your ones, it reads as like a kind of a US kind of comic. It's
right.
That's not a criticism in as much, but I'd love to hear that kind of that voice from where that is to kind of be in it and not just what it is. But there we go.
I mean, the Mad Max thing has got the Mad Max thing is a little bit of a cliche for Australia at this point, I'm going to say. Do you think?
I mean, the cover of issue 1 does homage Mad Max. The initial poster where it's kind of he's got all the Mad Max 1 where he's got like the bike helmet on, the glasses, and he's sort of waving a shotgun. And he's kind of got his arm out to one side.
Oh no!
So I looked and I was like, okay, yeah, that's Mad Max. I'm not sure if that's a great idea to do that or not, to be honest, because
I mean, it gets a market, but is it a bit too on the nose? I don't know. Sometimes.
Yeah, that's what I think. It's kind of maybe it is a bit too on the nose. I don't know, but like he wanted to make this comic, and he's fucking going for it. So good luck to you, Shane.
Cool. Well, I forgot to give out the website for my one, indigiverse.au. My one. If you want to look it
up. I'll jump in just with my batch, which, as I said, were all from Hawaii. There's two that I want to speak about. I actually got 3, but 2 from Mana Comics or Mana Comics. That's MANA Comics.com, and one from a creator called Mark Gould. And if you go to HawaiianComicBookAlliance.com, you can find out more about him. And these were fascinating because, as we said about like the cultural aspect of comics and stuff, these one of the titles, the one on which is, and I'm going to straight up say now, I'm going to murder every single pronunciation, and I apologise to the culture, to the language, and everything. That's on me, so Aumakua is Heroes from Hawaii. This is the one that I've yet to sort of read fully, but that one is basically, did you know there are superheroes in Hawaii? So much like Vanguard is a fresh take on UK heroes, this is the Hawaiian superhero team. So if the superhero side of things is your gateway drug into independent comics, so that's because there are lots of listeners who that's what it is, isn't it? If there's a superhero thing, it's an easy sort of gateway, isn't it? So check that out from manacomics.com. But I veered towards another one from Mana Comics, which now I'm going to tell you, Kamehameha.
Yeah, I think that's perfect.
That's some Dragon Ball.
That is
that's some Dragon Ball. That's when he fires the Kamehameha.
It is Hawaiian. or it's the character, because this is from Mana Legends, which I think Mana Comics, as well as doing heroes, they also do like history and legends and like folklore and stuff like that. So they put these into comic book formats. And this one is all about a said sort of legend. It very much reads, I guess, if you were to read, and I apologise for making this as simple as possible, but for instance, if you were to take the King Arthur story and put it in a comic book and just to tell readers this is what happened in his life, because it's a legend, it's a thing that exists, it's out there, and you're just telling the story in comic book format of this character who, when they were born, they were destined to be something special, and the leader of this tribe was threatened and wanted the child killed. So the child was stolen away and taken off the island and raised and trained until they were old enough, and then they came back and became a strong, great warrior. There's a lot more to it than that, but
right.
and the joy and the proof is in the actual reading of it. There is a lot of men essentially just wearing just skimpy tribal, I don't know how else to say it, underwear.
Excellent.
What's the name of this comic again?
Well, you can find it at manacomics.com, who have been going since September 2014, and they're still...
Okay, that's good. Over 10 years.
Yeah, they're still going now. I think they put out a comic. I think they Kickstarter with a lot of these sort of titles across the world as well. It just shows the reach of Kickstarter, because a lot of these books that they crowdfund their individual issues and then they can collect them. But this was, well drawn. My only sort of, I was trying to figure out. I wish I could give a list of the creators and stuff. Christopher Caravallo, who is the writer and founder of Mana Comics, so I think they're the writer of this particular book. And then underneath that, there is a list of credits for variant cover artists. Tom Bacon is the colorist. Great name. Justin
Burley Sausage did the
yeah. Justin Birch is the letterer. Kiko Galpin is the editor. One nice thing about this particular book that I got, and the storytelling is nice. They do some nice stuff with the layouts and the panels. The narration and the way the story's told. The reason why I mentioned that sort of King Arthur, almost like a factual. Not factual, mythological, but when it's telling a legend. There were bits like that in it that felt almost like this would be good to give to like a younger reader, or a kid who's learning about, if I was learning about legends from different cultures and stuff, this would be great to give to someone and sort of say, here you go, here's a character, here's a brilliant way to learn about it, because it's all there, and you see his trials of like he faces an enormous great white shark by himself at one point, which is anytime there's a shark in a comic, I'm all about that. But another thing I really liked about this book, and I think it is Christopher Caravallo, who is basically the founder of Mana Comics and is the driving force for doing it. And I think he created the Superior Team and then just wanted to get more books like this so more people learn about the culture and diversity and the heritage of Hawaii. It is a book. It is a flip book, and you can't see it, listeners, but I'm going to show it to the guys on the camera. So you've got one side. This was all in English, and you flip it round, and it's exactly the same. It's exactly the same book, but in the Hawaiian language.
Oh wow!
That's interesting.
Okay,
which
see, that's good. I think that's good. A lot of things disappear. We often hear a bit about Gaelic and Welsh and stuff, don't we? Yeah. And I think that's good.
Yeah,
that's one way to do it.
Yeah, and it was great. I mean, the Alelo Hawaii is the indigenous language of the Hawaiian Islands, and is the official language of the state of Hawaii. So, so if you understand the language, it's all in there for you. It's the same book with a different cover. Thankfully they put a different cover on the other side of the flip book. But also, where you've got the variant covers, They've got pictures of the artists, and you can see the variant cover in there as well. So they care about the creators that have gone into this book. But of course, as being a Luddite, someone who doesn't know about this culture, I'm just enjoying the story for what it is. And I'm reading through, and naturally, because they're just telling the story as it is, there are certain words, certain phrases, certain mentions that kind of go over my head. It doesn't affect the story because you get the sense of what's happening. But if you want to go back, there is a little sort of Hawaiian to English sort of glossary in the back.
Yeah, same as what I had. Oh, that's a good idea. I'm glad these people are doing that.
Yeah. And that was how I know.
I think the thing with us is we've always enjoyed comics that are from other countries anyway. Let's face it, outside of British comics. Like most of our comic people are mostly American, aren't they, really? Apart from Tintin and maybe Asterix and stuff like that. So it's pre-programmed into me to enjoy comics and learn about other countries anyway.
Yeah.
Coming from Britain, which is at the moment, sadly, hasn't really got an industry.
And because of what it is, if you wanted to learn more, if you're like, oh, this is fascinating, you want to learn more, they've got a bit, because this is essentially the main character, even though it feels comic booky and almost superhero, but there's no superhero, there's no magical, there's none of that. But it's all about a boy who will one day unite the tribes. And as well as the glossary, there's if you want to learn more, and it's got a list of books to read more.
Oh, to read up on it. Okay.
So, to read up on it. As well as some ads for other comics that they do. But I was just sort of... it was a real pleasant and sort of read this. And I say that, and I'll be blatantly honest, normally this sort of stuff isn't my bag. Like, normally, in a Comic Con, and we've been to a lot of indie Comic Cons, there's some great sort of, whether it be translations or historical fiction, shall we say, or how many graphic novels... Sorry to use that term. How many comic books?
You and me were agreed last week.
Totally. Yeah. But it's just become part of my lexicon, so I can't.
I know it's difficult. Yeah. I'm trying to stop saying it for Lent, almost as if it's Lent. Do you know what I mean? It's like that.
Yeah.
What are you replacing it with? Trade.
Fat comics. In fact, I was told
comics,
by Fat comics.
Just comics. But how many comics have we seen that are tellings of historical figures, like a Joan of Arc book, or that kind of thing, where it's told in a graphic format, but it is just a legend or a tale. Yeah. And normally when I see those at sort of small conventions, shame on me, but I
usually not.
I go past them because that's not for me. Do you know what I mean? Almost like my brain's in that sort of switch that I did all that learning at that school building thing. I don't need to learn anything else.
It's like I'm sure these comics that are adaptations of Shakespeare's plays are very good. But
oh mate,
I've seen the plays, I've read the plays. I don't really know.
How many people have taken on Macbeth in a comic book?
Yeah, you know I mean? It's not for me though, is it? I guess it's not for me. It's for school kids.
You're kind of not doing it down, but like it's not for you.
Yeah,
it's the same way as they get comics about like sitting politicians or something. It's like you can't pay me to read this. Like,
I see them enough on the news. Please no.
No.
But I think Mana Comics, if you want to see something different as well, and they're just making comics, they're straight up making comics just about their culture, because it's a small island as well. Do you know what I mean? It is.
Yeah, do it, man. That's great.
I mean, we talk about us being a tiny island. There are lots of these sort of cultures.
I feel that the three of us should go to the Honolulu Comic Con, and as we get off the plane, they put those garlands around our necks and hand us a mojito. And next thing you know, we're at the convention. That's how I feel it should go.
Let's do it. Should we do a GoFundMe? That'd be good. That'd be good.
I think it's going to cost more than a £5.
Or a Ko-fi or coffee or whatever it is. Yeah, let's.
Or maybe some kind of bank heist.
That'd do. What website is that? Is that bankheistoneword.com?
.org.
.org, of course. And just briefly, the other one was from the creator Mark Gould, who's the creator, writer, pencils, colours, of Native Sons, Ring of Fire. When we use the term Ring of Fire, I expect Tony to make a joke.
Keep saying it.
About his curry excellence.
I had ratatouille, didn't I, for lunch?
Yeah, you did. Again, that's the second time. But this likewise is a sort of it's culturally, it's not a historical one, but this is definitely using a culture and creating sort of Hawaii-based sort of heroes, and who are in a centuries-old fight. I don't know if there's any more issues of this or they're just one, but the classic. If you go on the website, it just says that that they're in a centuries-old war between the forces of light and dark. We've all been in one of them.
Yeah,
I'm in one. That's called a marriage, isn't
it? But this one is. I tell you what, it gave me real strong small press comic convention vibes. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, nice.
Like sort of looking at it, you see like the interior pages and just the way the sort of action sort of plays out.
With all these books, I don't know about you guys, so well put together. Like the world over, it seems to be like the professionalism of the small press scene is just.
Yeah. These are really well presented. And they've got a designer. You can see they've got a designer on board and stuff. I like them. Pretty strong art in mine. Pretty strong art. There's a lot of Marvel comics, ain't there?
Same.
I'll tell you now.
Same.
For me, Native Sons, the art was a little stronger than the writing. I know this is a book that was many years in the making, sort of on and off. But also, there were certain phrases, again, that went over my head. And in the back page, there's Pidgin English and definitions. So, casual conversation used by locals of Hawaii originated in the old plantation days when the many different ethnic groups needed a common language. Here are some translations from the words and or phrases that I feel can't be easily deciphered. So it points out certain the actual page and what the word is, because there were certain words that kept coming up, and I was like, And when it sounds terrible. Like when you don't understand it, there's part of the brain that goes, "Is that bad writing? Are you just using slang?" And I say this.
Oh, okay.
Sometimes when I've read some comics, for instance, about East London, let's say East London, and the way that some people may use East London slang isn't used very well. Does that make sense?
I think you say the same. You say the same about Cockney rhyming slang, because it seems to be like a Guy Ritchie, someone just puts it in for sort of, dramatic effect. And you also occasionally see it in comics with Polari as well. I've seen a couple of comics historically using Polari, which is interesting.
Always cautious as a creator to create that stopping point of you're reading a comic and you're in it, and then suddenly like, what's that? And you've had to come out to sort of reassess what that is. Maybe a better way would be to asterisk it and then put like editor's note or something.
I'll tell you,
I always question when I've done that.
Having tried to explain Cockney rhyming slang to Americans, I've tried it to unblue in the face. They still don't get it. It's a weird thing to explain, because we use it because we think it's funny mostly. But they just don't get it.
But it is these things that sometimes when you're reading it, I also think that these sort of pages are great to have in your book. And for God's sake, if it's something you want to travel in some ways, you got to have it. You got to have it, because some people could have been like, for instance, there was someone sort of said, "Make die dead" at one point. They sort of scream as all this action's kicking off, and I thought, the fuck is that? But it was something that is a term that was used for like someone who's died or dead. There's a couple of great ones in here. There, a baboose is a dummy, and we met a few of them. And what do you think "he needs cracks" means?
Oh,
he needs
cracks. I don't know.
Assistance?
No. He needs to get his ass kicked.
Oh, okay.
He's
cracks.
So I mean that's something we could use in our day to day.
No one needs that.
And I think one of the strongest reasons, this is a tiny thing really, but I think a lot of people know where I'm coming from. Why this gave me a real strong independent small press comic vibe, like we've all been in this place and created a comic like this and we love it, is it's got an advert for the printer they used on the back.
gee. We used to do that all the time, didn't we? Remember? I think was it Nixon gave you a discount. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. I do not know if this comic, actually, I will say, was 2016, so I don't know if these people are still
it was quite old, yeah.
But comicswellspring.com, that's comics with an X.
I think they're still going. Let me have a look.
Yeah. It's a division of Greco Printing. So
like the wrestling.
of course.
Yeah. But yeah, it's great. It's great. I don't know. There's something about seeing these sort of ads that warms my heart in a way, especially if I
it's
see
like
them...
when I see I've got an ACP advert in one of our comics. I like that as well.
Yeah,
still going. Comics Wellspring.
Wow.
Yeah, I thought I'd heard of them. Yeah,
Nice. So
I think what's the other one they used to do in the US? That Kablam.
That's right. Yeah.
You'd get you could put an advert in the back and it would make it cheaper.
Yeah. But these, at the end of the day, these are. I've got a sticker in it. I didn't realise I had a sticker in one. I'll put that somewhere. When I'm doing one of my Banksies. I got something from these. Do you know what I mean? That I think I didn't expect. Like I say, there was a. And I think it shows the importance, especially if a comic is sort of culturally different, and it's a culture that, let's face it, there's a lot of twats in this world who just aren't interested in the culture beyond their own. Let's face it, they're all fucking morons. But we can learn a lot, and one of the learnings is there's a lot of comic creators who love comics, and that's the strongest thing. As well as me learning about the culture, I've also learned, wow, there's a fucking community of artists and creators over there who just want to make comics, and that's fantastic. So, I'll be interested to see what other stuff they'll have coming out, especially Mana Comics, because I think they had a Kickstarter last June.
Oh, it's quite a recent Kickstarter. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So, keep my eye on them. But that was interesting. What are the other two that you had, Dan? Because they're a little more down the line, weren't they?
I had one called Slayhemn by Andrew Law and Julian Barr. It's interesting that all yours has kind of had spoken with a cultural voice, where this is more of a D&D fantasy comic.
I suppose if just simply because you come from another culture doesn't mean that you got to. It's nice that we've managed to see it, but it goes without saying that.
I'm from the UK, and fucking Vipers about bloody 1980s Los Angeles.
Yeah,
you know what I mean, it's not. Yeah, I've never been to Los Angeles, so I couldn't tell you. So it's just.
I mean, we write what we know and write what we like. That's the.
I was there in the 80s, and it is very realistic, man, I'd say.
This is just a fun comic. If you do your kind of D&D stuff, the kind of the high fantasy, magic, swords and sorcery, dragons, etc. The art in it, the guy's penmanship. There's a making of in the back, and I really like the pen and ink and pencil work over the color stuff. It's similar to I'm trying to think of a good example. Just in the kind of when you see the artist's work and you see it before the kind of the computer coloring goes on, and it's it feels very kind of a lot more real and grounded. Again, there seems to be a lot of D&D and fantasy stuff around it.
Over the last 5 years,
there really is.
It's been the hotness, and even as a huge fan of that, and now it's become a case of.
It's the new zombies.
Now it's become a case of find the good ones. A Hunger in the Dusk, top of the list. How much is underneath it? Do you know what I mean?
Excalibur from Marvel at the bottom.
End of last year, but it's got some really nice artistic touches in it. I'll hold it up to the camera. That page there. You kind of got this dragon kind of flying in on a double page spread.
I think. Yeah.
And you got the panels around it, and there's a real sense of sort of depth. And the artist does a great job. The comic otherwise is fine. If you kind of like your D&D and fantasy stuff.
The thing about that, Dan, can I ask you a question about that comic? And this also sort of pertains to the D&D and those sort of fantasy tabletop gaming things, etc. Does that one deal with species of people who are different and you're just supposed to know it? Now, I know we talked about the Amazing Godhark recently, and the creator, forgive me, I've forgotten the name at the moment, but they said there is places to get more information about the world and the universe, isn't there? They've done their work. But I've read, and the reason I ask you this about this particular book, Dan, is that I've read stuff that Much like you, the shorthand is, oh yeah, this is for D&D people, because it's got all of those shorthand. Here's a dragon person. Here is a half devil person, but they don't explain it. So it almost feels like they're playing to only 10 people in the pub. They're not playing to the whole fucking crowd. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, if you kind of know, you know. If you don't, you just kind of like.
I mean, you could
I
say
think a lot of D&D suffers from cliche as well.
Yeah.
There's a lot of, it's exactly the same team. They get together to travel across the country to get something. There's a bit of that goes on.
Yeah.
It's a hard one because like the fantasy stuff has been done for fucking to death. I mean, what story? There's so many stories have been told in the genre, not just in comics, books, films, everything.
Yeah. And within those genres, we've had a million types of it. Whether it be the adventure tales, the Indiana Jones tales, the detective tales, the crime tales. Everyone's trying to hit something. But in this particular one, Dan, does it stay mostly with humans and then like big creatures?
It's the main character is kind of like everyone born in this race is a magic user. You can use magic. He can't, and there's a consequence. He's exiled out of the community, and he has to kind of make his way as a kind of a rogue thief. Kind of like scoundrel kind of guy.
I mean, there's a certain amount of cliche, but it's also a strong start. That's a good place to start.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great.
How many fantasy novels have started with that kind of thing? That's the.
Yeah, I mean, you can't go too wrong of doing the outsider. Like you're kind of with them because they're rejected by everyone else. So it's a really strong. Like the beginning bit where he's kind of like telling a bit of the backstory. I'm really put off by the great big slabs of text, and this doesn't do that. Like they're trying to explain the entirety of how this world works on inside front cover or something. You're like, oh mate, come on, you gotta tell the story better than this. It's
a different medium. It's not a book. They need to remember that. We don't need that sort of big introduction history thing that is kind of a staple of fantasy novels.
Without a doubt, is comics you got to show, don't tell, man.
Yeah, and like if you want to have all of that, treat it, for instance, like a video game, like a Skyrim. If you want to have fucking all of this prose text, do it as a little document and have a link in the book or something like that. Have someone to go, oh, here's this. Would you like to know more? Then go here. Do you know what I mean? So, because in those sort of games, that lore was always there. If you picked up all these books, you could fucking read it if you want.
Read it, yeah.
But if you didn't want to, you could just carry on as is. It shouldn't be...
Yeah.
I just feel like those fantasy comics have to stand on their own 2 feet. You shouldn't have to read a load of supplemental materials to get it. I know that's not the point you were making.
And also you shouldn't be locked into whatever your initial influence is. I mean, for instance, mention it again, the Hunger and the Dusk. For me, there's those real sort of tabletop gaming sort of themes and the Dungeons and Dragons sort of stuff that I recognise and I love and I can see. It doesn't overtake the story, and it also works for Tony. Like Tony, because you don't do it, but you completely get the story.
No, I don't play that sort of game. Yeah.
But you understand exactly what's going on.
I've read Lord of the Rings and I've read The Hobbit and I've read all that sort of thing. But I don't play the games. I'm not part of the current.
But you kind of read loads of fantasy books. You know the kind of genre team.
And seen all the movies and stuff. Sword and Sorceress.
Yeah.
Barbarian Twins.
Yeah.
Your
classic.
Yeah. Actually, it's just called Barbarians, Dan. It starred the Barbarian Twins.
Oh, good point.
They were cracking.
Sorry, I didn't want to correct you on that, Dan. Sorry, I apologise.
You have to.
Very rudely ignored by the Academy. I think you'll find that film as well.
Absolutely. The amazing bit where they're in a pit, and that giant lizard goes over the top of them, and they just stab it, and all the guts of the lizard go over them. Do you remember that?
It's so long. I don't know.
I might be kind of vilifying myself and fellow fantasy fans, but I tried to watch Gore the other day with Oliver Reed.
Yeah.
Like, fucking hell, that fucking.
There's a sequel to that as well, don't you?
Yeah. Warriors.
There's 2 of them.
Warlords of Gore or something.
Something like that. Yeah.
It's just like this. We've got this actors, and this just like to wander around the desert for a bit. So what that stuff?
Is it one of those?
Oliver Reed phones in that one.
Yeah, he had to pay a bar tab or something like that, and he did a film.
I just like.
Is that Canon Pictures?
Yeah, Canon. Totally.
Of course it is.
Oliver Reed's costume, like he's kind of this like a guy who drinks too much. And he's got like his chest hanging out. It's like maybe put a cape or something over it. I don't think there's too many people like clamoring at the fucking pit to see that.
Well, he used to take his clothes off on Parkinson's. I don't suppose he was that shy, was he? Yeah.
No, I don't think he had any sort of reticent about doing that. last comic I've got. Extreme Championship Tournament XCT Monsters.
Now this
Vince,
is
you said you knew something about this one.
A bit of an outlier from what we've been talking about, actually.
Yeah, the first one I remember seeing it a while ago as a Kickstarter that had had great artwork, but I think there's been several books of this. But carry on, Dan. You take it away, and then
this is like an anthology. This book, this does suffer a little bit with the block of text at the beginning of the story. The book telling you kind of like the setup. It's year 2069, and essentially people go around the world digging up and trying to find monsters to take part in this extreme championship tournament where the monsters fight one another. That's not a concept that appeals to me too much, but these has different tales all written by the creator of it, which is Sean Keenan, and there's about half a dozen stories of different vignettes of like characters trying to recruit monsters in. Probably the best one is one about Pegasus, and there's flashbacks to back in mythology, and then it cuts to now now in the story where someone's trying to bid on the feather of Pegasus and not wanting it to be captured, and he throws it away, but it ultimately gets caught again by the bad guys. So I think it's a lot of side stories to run alongside the main one of this big tournament that's running. So I'm coming at it kind of in a not a great angle, because I'm seeing sort of like the trimmings of the dish as opposed to the main course.
Okay.
But as previously said, art absolutely spot on. It's would knock a lot of stuff you see in the mainstream now into a fucking cocked hat. Again, it's just not a comment for me, but I can't kind of knock it in as much that someone may fucking love
not
this.
something you'd read, but you can appreciate the craft involved.
Totally. Totally.
This is.
I feel bad for saying that, but it's just.
That's fine, man.
Yeah,
that's fine. You can't read everything.
Well,
that's the difference between taste and whether it's good or bad.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
And Comics to Movies, who's the publisher of this, they've currently is it still going? They just recently had a Kickstarter for XCT. I keep wanting to say ecstasy.
XTC.
Monsters. Yeah, you know it. And they have been going since 2014. They've done loads, and they are what do they say? They are Australia's most successful graphic novel publisher.
Oh wow!
So, yes, they've done so many of these that I think they're old hats at doing it. They know how to. But
they've got a manga touch. Is there a manga thing going on this?
Yeah. There's a little Reckless Heroes to it, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah. It's kind of it's got that kind of level of dynamism in the artwork.
Yeah. And I think there's also something like Afterlife Inc. Like lots of different artists trying with these sort of different styles, doing these sort of stories. But yeah, I think. I
mean, as a small press creator, that is one of the things. Kind of having an artistic team that stays with you thick and thin. That goes on for years. People's lives and circumstances change. So having a kind of like you tell 5 or 6 stories, 5-page stories, and then move on to another artist is a way of doing it, I guess.
Yeah. Oh, just to update, their latest project was successful. 153 backers with 7,000 Australian dollars.
Nice
for a 5,500 goal. So, well done for them.
Yeah, nice work.
Yeah, but it's interesting. It was sort of fascinating seeing these sort of different books on so many sort of levels, really, isn't it? And it also just. It's nice to read something outside of the bubble.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much we're missing every week.
Oh God,
you can't read it. Or as much as we all together read so many books every week.
And we're just missing them all. Your favorite books out there in the world right now, but you just don't fucking know about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They just blow your socks off.
I mean, fair play. We all read things that we like and we know, and continue to do it. But just occasionally, if something catches your eye or seems quite interesting, just give it a poke.
Every time I'm placing an order, I always take a chance on saying I like to do that.
So yeah, I think that's our word to the wise, to the listen. I mean, a lot of our lovely listeners, they love checking out stuff from around the world anyway. I mean, for God's sake, one of our listeners got us onto these. So that's what we always want. We want to learn, because some of these creators we end up talking to, and then sort of saying, right, come on, we didn't know about you. Tell us more about what the scene is like over there. Because we're always fascinated to see what these comics cultures and the communities are like all over the world. Because we're all in little bubbles, aren't we? Just little bubbles.
We've got a relatively good understanding of like the UK and the US scene, but like apart from that, I'm kind of We talked to Edison Neo about where he lives and how that goes down.
Yeah.
But apart from that, kind of Angoulême.
Yeah.
You got that. But
and
I can tell you what like the small press shows are like that. In France
and so many countries as well. Sometimes we sort of say, "Oh, we wish we had more comic conventions." There's an awful lot of countries out there that have loads of comic creators, and they have no convention to go to, or the one that they have is just not up to muster. Do you know what I mean? It's but hopefully we see more of their work. So let us know about what books, and not just from Australia and Hawaii, but anywhere in the world. If there's books that we should be checking out, then please do let us know,
man.
Yeah, and keep the conversation going on the Slack community, because I know there's lots of our listeners on there.
Send in a Digiverse into our email, and we'll check it out.
Exactly. And
the email address is
awesomecomicspod@gmail.com.
Hey,
tested me there, and I just looked up and it was right in front of me, so thank God for that. But yes, and also keep the conversation going on the Slack community. If you want to join our Slack community, get in touch with us and you'll be added to loads of fantastic people, loads of different channels about like comics, podcast discussion, artwork threads. There's Pound Shop where people are just trying to shift books.
I'll fucking try and stay out of that channel.
I know, because Dan will be broke. He'll have to sell his house, and more. So yeah, definitely join that if you can. Anyway, from that.
Speaking of other countries,
obviously we've got something special, because our second bit of the show is the celebrity question. I feel like there should be a theme for this.
Yeah. It should be like that. That was that YouTube show, Celebrity True or False. Have you seen that one? It's like that, isn't it?
Yeah. But we have. Shall I just play it? Because we have a question for us to talk about, which I think is going to get us talking for a little bit all the way until the end of the show, I think, because it's quite a wide open topic. Because I think, the guest, this particular celebrity, it's fairly obvious.
He's the one person we will allow in during Amigo.
Yeah. It's a Mago, Tony.
Sorry. Yeah, sorry.
Anyway, should we see
I've been drinking, to be fair.
Should we see what the question is?
Yeah.
I mean, you might hear Tony's voice again.
Time travel.
Yeah.
Fire up, Tony.
Yeah. So let's see what it is.
Okay, I'm up a mountain with Pat Mills again. We're just back from a long lunch, and he's going to be the first appearance on our celebrity question of the week. Hey Pat, are you right?
Hi.
Yeah,
Hi.
good. So what have you got for us?
All right, so my question is, have we caught up with the future? Has science fiction finally run out of road?
Ooh, lots on that one. Okay. Good stuff. And Shah is about to come out as well. I've seen the proof in your front room.
Yeah. With their Kickstarter, we've got one of the pledges first, and then it will be on general printing distribution.
Yeah, I got a bit of FOMO and changed my order to the nice looking gilt edged book.
Oh yeah, the gilt edged one is lovely. Yeah, they've done a really good job on that. Cool. Fantastic.
Well done, Lise.
Thank you.
Right, so you got your question. There you go, lads. I'll speak to you in a minute.
Speak to us now.
That's amazing, isn't it? Look at that time travel.
Yeah.
That is astonishing.
That concept hasn't been done in comics.
Yeah. And thank you to Pat as always for his.
Pat Mills. Pat. I'm not sure we quite got the start bit, but it's Pat Mills. Yeah. If you don't recognise the voice.
Yeah. Thank you for the question, Pat, and for their awesome comics. that you keep churning out?
We ruminated over that question over lunch. Well, we had a little thought about it. It's quite a good question, I think.
Yeah, it's a great question.
Yeah.
So, comics, have we caught up with the future? Have we overtaken science fiction? Do you know what I mean?
I think there's a bit. So on this, we were having a discussion about. We started talking about. Believe it or not, we started talking about Star Trek and how John Wagner got Pat into Star Trek. Because John was more of a sci-fi fan than Pat. He said, "You've got to watch this show." And we were talking about how, there's a book, isn't there, that's come out about things that Star Trek predicted. And, it's like the flip phone and the doors are opening automatically. It's traveling together and, and all this sort of thing. And then we sort of extrapolated that theory into, well, have we caught up with that now? There's not much science fiction that doesn't have an element of the now in it, does it? I mean,
Yes.
There's a lot of sort of VR stuff that now is just almost every day. Cyberpunk stuff is sort of catching up, isn't it? The terrible sort of political situation in the world. We almost had a zombie apocalypse with COVID, didn't we? The abandoned streets of London. Is there anything that we can see?
I was walking along and in Southwark, they have these stations that have like a TV screen on them and charging ports for USB devices. And there was like an old boy, homeless guy, like on that, standing there charging his phone. And I was like, that's fucking cyberpunk right there. Like, it's a shit fucking unglamorous version of it, but it's like, oh man, like that's.
But do you remember what's the thing in 2000 AD where they kill Judge Death by encasing him in that plastic bouncing boing? Yeah. Well, we got Zorbing now.
It's hard because all the things you sort of look forward in the past science fiction say we're going to have this one day, like, as you mentioned, Tony. So we've got some of that or variations of that, and it's where's that aspirational sci-fi now? Sort of these are the things you can have in the future, because I don't know what that is.
I think certainly one thing that has not so much caught up, I guess, but almost died off is what you say, Dan. Aspirational sci-fi. It feels like science fiction. For the longest time, it was almost there were almost two types. You had your Star Treks and your Jetsons, and that. Wouldn't it be great in the future when we've got flying cars?
Go where no man has gone before.
Yeah, and all of that stuff. And then you had the other side that was like, there'll be drugs, but this time the drug will be an implant that you put in your brain, and then there'll be those sort of
Black Mirror.
What do androids do? The Philip K. Dick, the Herbert books, all of this stuff that was, the darker edge. Hard sci-fi, as we call it, isn't it?
Well, I guess the question is, if you're going to make a comic,
isn't it? That is hard sci-fi.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. I think the question remains: if you're going to make a sci-fi comic, what is there left for you to do?
Yeah.
What is there left that is unexplored in reality and sometimes in the fiction itself already? It's like a bit like, it's not quite as bad as fantasy for me, but there are sort of so many like overdone tropes in sci-fi. I mean, overdone cliches as well,
Totally.
What fantasy is, at its core, in its own kind of way, is, and it's almost like what Tolkien was doing with it, was doing almost a historical document. He was creating old-fashioned style legends from the past. All of this was from a certain time. With science fiction, you're looking to the future for them predominantly. You're predicting things, or you're sort of saying, well, this is, when the future looks like this, how will we cope with it, or what will people do? And I think it's certainly gotten a lot darker. To put it in a simple way, there was a point when science fiction, this is my opinion, of course, science fiction used to be about dreaming about the future. Now it seems to be the future is not a dream, it is a nightmare, because all of the stories are, that is going to be bad for us. That we've done that, and it's. I mean, how many comics have we read that were like, everyone's got an implant, and all of a sudden they've been infected with the virus, and it's turned the world into zombies? How many times? Maybe it's because that's the way society's just turning in on itself anyway. But do you know what I mean? It feels like there's less sort of, even if you have those comics that are like the future's a great place to be, isn't it? It's all wondrous. That's usually half of an issue 1, and then second half is like underneath it all.
They discover that it's all a fantasy and stuff like that.
What kind of fucked me off about the Star Trek stuff, when they had this ground of like humanity's fucking doing great and we were working together, kind of races and bigotry, so it's all gone, and now we're kind of like working together against outside agents. And then they seeded that ground and sort of like, no, it's going to be really horrible and all this shit. It's like, man, everyone else is fucking doing that. Why have you gone and done that yourself?
And there's that element of like, it was about hope.
Yeah.
Well, why is hope such a bad thing? Do you know what I mean? Because it's like,
and it was about fun.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I think there's a lot. I mean, we hear about big idea sci-fi, don't we? I mean, Warren Ellis being one of the heads of that. You know, we see people aspiring to do that sort of. I've got this big idea, this big concept, and I'm building around it. And we also get sci-fi that is just involving the people who are involved in it. And I think there's not enough of both. I think hard, big idea sci-fi often ignores the personality and the real person element, which is almost what the bit I enjoy more. And when you look at something like you mentioned Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep earlier, that's about a dude, whether it's the film or the book, which are very different. It's about this dude at the center of it and him, and he's surrounded by this massive concept. And I think we're more. I mean, it's a visual experience, isn't it? A comic, but we're more into the design and visual experience than we are about getting to the heart of people. And for me, even zombies, which is often it's a sort of near future type thing. It's not about the monsters; it's about the people, isn't it?
And and I think you're absolutely right. It's completely lost. I mean, talking about like that Philip K. Dick. There's also. And it is a science fiction book, like I Am Legend by Matheson.
Yeah.
You read that.
One of my favourites.
That is about this man. But all everyone sees is it's an apocalyptic world where everyone's a vampire. And it's like, no, that's not.
It's all told from
the last line in that book sums it up.
Yeah.
Where he says, I am legend.
Yeah. It's such a good book. Such a good book.
It's one of my favourites.
Yeah. Quick read.
They've never made a decent film of it either.
Yeah. No. Has there been a.
The nearest we got was
I quite like the Vincent Price one.
That's probably the nearest for me. I think that one. Yeah.
But yeah, I think sci-fi's it's an odd one, isn't it? Because it's certainly it is almost become the lifeblood of comics.
There's a lot. I mean,
Iron Man sci-fi.
Yeah, superheroes are science fiction in there. They are, aren't they?
Often,
2000 AD called so much fucking stuff coming down the line. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, isn't it? Like.
Stuff.
It's almost taking this question and moving it a step on. So it's almost not a case of have we caught up with the future, or how much has the future or the present fed off what was said before. You know, when we've had those, just imagine a day like you'd read a comic or you'd see a TV show where instead of like, you know, a massive mobile phone, they've just got a thin sheet of plastic and, you know, they're swiping on it, and you think, well, that's ridiculous. You'd never have that, and that exists now
on their sleeve or something. You know, it's always sort of I know what you mean.
Yeah.
And now we've got it. See, the thing is, I'm old enough to remember that. Wouldn't it be fucking amazing if I can video call someone? It'd be like science fiction. Now we do it once a week.
Yeah.
At least.
Yeah. I do it several times a day for work.
Yeah. And it affects the fiction that we write, whether it be present day or future stuff.
Yeah.
All of this, doesn't it? The immediate, like we said, the mobile phone was the worst invention for narrative, fiction.
Yeah. It's really tough.
Yeah. And
every
internet.
single horror film, when they're out in, like, they get caught by something, they always say, the mobile phone don't work, or I didn't charge it, or some fucking nonsense.
There's no signal. Yeah.
Just to get that to work. And it's, as an audience, you're kind of like, okay, well, that's the way it is. And
Here's a question for you. Do you think we've become less fascinated by science fiction? It's got to have something else involved in it. Because I'm seeing a lot of fantasy thrown into sci-fi. Look at Saga, for example.
Yeah.
I think almost the fantasy of, like, the, you know, alien races, or, you know, mutants, or that kind of thing. Less so much mutants, but more like alien races. That's almost become a safe haven in a way, because I feel like a lot of more real life sci-fi is almost too close to home. Do you know what I mean? It feels like
Black Mirror is a chilling experience to watch, isn't it?
And that's why sometimes I know how good those episodes are and stuff, but and here's a reveal: I haven't watched most of them because I don't really want to be bummed out by how the
dark it is,
and the dark and sort of like, well, everything's hopeless, isn't it? But when there's, I mean, one of the books I'm going to talk about briefly a bit later is a bit sci-fi, but when it's like a big adventure comic about fighting, alien wars and stuff like that, it's escapism. A lot of this stuff, and science fiction was an escape, or sometimes herald. It's like a Nostradamus, like, oh, can you imagine if the future's like this? We can't say that anymore because the future's moving quicker now than it was. I think that's it's not so much
technologies. There's these theories about technology moving quicker, isn't it?
Yeah. Because if people,
I think the thing about
if people think it, a couple of months later, it might actually exist, isn't it? That's kind of
It does seem that way. I think the thing is about science fiction, it's different from the other genres. So horror, you know what you're going to expect. Romance, you know what you're going to expect. Crime, you know what you're going to expect. But sci-fi is just the story that happens in the future or involving technical
wondrous
crap.
technology.
It can be a romance story
on
sci-fi,
or something involving sci-fi. That's the whole point of it.
So it can be all the other things. It can be a crime drama. It can be a romance. It can be a horror. It's a weird envelope to put everything into compared to the others, I think.
Yeah,
I agree. Yeah, it's usually like the weird thing is just to kind of like explore a story concept or an idea. Like you can swap faces with your other half or something, and it's like that just exists to play out a narrative.
Yeah,
a bit weird.
Should we try that?
This stuff.
Next time we'll meet up, let's do it. This is getting even darker than the sci-fi.
I can never normally see your face anyway. So
lights are off.
But it's hard. It's like if you sort of like you're going to do a future society, I think like maybe you'd want to look what would look like in thousands of years, as in like Dune style.
Yeah, that's what I'm interested in with sci-fi when it's just massively Ian Banks kind of stuff. It's just massively another complete. And Dune does it a bit, doesn't it? Although. It's sort of slightly more grounded in the way that we humans react.
All the science fiction cultures I'd want to live in Ian Banks is the culture, because that'd be fucking amazing.
Yeah, that's so strange, isn't it?
Yeah. Just get to do whatever you want all the time.
Yeah, do what thou wilt should be the whole of the law. Yeah.
But
even like Asimov's Foundation and this sort of thing as well. It's just so different, isn't it? There's a little bit of it's the same in a way. So it's different. It's well in the future, but people are still arguing over things. People are still greedy. People still want power.
Yeah,
I think people are still having sex with each other.
I think we've all read a book or a sci-fi where there's just some small concept. No matter how big the sci-fi is or how small the sci-fi is, sometimes there's been a little concept that feels just close enough to reality that you think, oh, I can't wait till we can do that. I remember this was years ago and it's never happened, but although despite people wanting to put chips in your fucking head like psychopaths. But there was a sci-fi book where there was this guy who had a chip in his head and he could change the music based on the mood, like as he was walking along. So if he wanted to feel cool, the music would sort of change to fit his mood. And at the time I thought, God, that'd be great if you just walked into a room and you only heard it in your head and you just thought, I feel like a badass. But I feel like probably
Spotify.
give it 10 years. They'll just fucking implant Spotify in your brain, and then you'll be like, hell, why do I keep getting ads?
What science fiction comics have done it for you then? What are the ones that have been a successful sort of science fiction comic?
Oh, there's different levels of science fiction, isn't there?
Yeah, there really are, aren't there? Yeah.
That future society that's totally alien and weird. Fucking the Meta Barons.
That's a good one.
Man, this is fucking nuts. Like, just everything so far removed from kind of, but it's still got those kind of those, as you mentioned, like people wanting to be powerful or be on top. It still has those kind of the base human desires, but in these strange alien worlds.
For me, I'm going to say Dread, because it built to be such an environment that you just understand. You can just as soon as the Dread opens, you know where he is, and it's all different artists, and it's just this sort of mega city, Judge Dredd.
It's a world.
It's just horrible. Yeah, this whole world, you get it, don't you?
Yeah. I think like part of the one of the boons of something like that, like you say, that particular world, is because they created a world. I mean, there's obviously Dread, but the mega city became this world and this universe. Other people, because we were visiting in it, I think almost we were more accustomed to different artists and writers going in, because we're all on the same page. We're all discovering this world more and more with every tale. You know, you can tell so many different. I mean, because Judge Dredd, there's only. I mean, if he's in it constantly, how many different flavors of Judge Dredd story can you do?
It's good.
Yeah. They've done a few, mind you.
Yeah, they've done a few.
They've done invasions and werewolves, and you know.
But there's an awful lot.
Sugar's evil.
Yeah, but how many times have we seen stories beyond Dread, or Dread is the almost the background factor in it, and we see different levels to this sci-fi world. So I think it's got to be a captivating world, but also the safe haven to something like a Dread. Safe haven's a strange way to put it. All these bigger concepts is because they do feel, no matter how many times people go, we're not that far from a mega city sort of world or blah 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 blah. We fucking well are. It's still quite far away, and I can say that because if the world does end up like that, I'll be fucking long gone. I'll be long gone by the time it happens. So
mate, I'm up a mountain. I'm literally up a mountain in a small village, looking across, and I can see the sea from here, and it doesn't really feel like mega city. I'll be honest with you.
Yeah.
I think it's you just see little concepts of stuff or little anything. Fuck me, that could lead to that. But that's if that ever happens. That's years and years and years down the line.
Yeah. I mean, because of the nature of science fiction writing, there are things that I think we take for granted. A lot of things that we read, and they become the norm. We read a book about space truckers, or we read it about like a space prison or something like that, and it feels fairly normal. But that's only because like the likes of Alien came along and it felt so real and lived in, that they're concepts that feel familiar.
Yeah.
Whereas where is the concept that feels so massively different from everything else?
Which is what I really like.
Yeah.
I'll tell you one that I was talking to Pat about yesterday, and the subject of Ballard and Ellie came up, and I recently have decided Ballard and Ellie is my favourite 2000 DIs, and the one that came up for me was Ace Trucking. It's so fucking weird. It's just so unusual, but it massively works for me. There's not really any humans in it, really. It's just fucking sci-fi at its best, where it just is completely an unreal world, but convinces you that it's real.
Yeah. I think there's there's one bit of sci-fi.
This is a hard topic.
It is a hard topic, and it's fascinating. And it's massive.
I'd love to hear what you guys think on the Slack.
I think with a lot of sci-fi, even if it's in the smallest thing, people could say, I could see that existing in the real world, or I could see in a few years we'll have that, or we'll have that. I think the one thing that we're pretty safe with sci-fi, I'm gonna go on a limb and say it, is time travel. Never gonna fucking happen. Never gonna happen. Until the older me walks through that door and shoots me in the face, it's never gonna fucking happen, because it's just the world was split in two. Do you know what I mean?
What are you desperate to happen that's appeared in sci-fi and hasn't happened yet? That's a question.
For me, the most mundane shit is like when you think, once if we could do this, I always think of like the most like if we could teleport, I could get to work.
Oh, the teleporting one. Because there's sometimes I just don't want to
work. If
I don't want to. I've had a day and I don't want to drive that half an hour. I want to be home immediately. Yeah. And it's through laziness. That's what a lot of sci-fi is born from. Is sort of. I mean, another thing that I don't think will ever happen, but those fucking Star Trek Next Generation, creates the food. I've forgotten the name of it now.
Replicator.
The replicator. That would change the fucking world if someone created one of them. That would be unbelievable. I'd love one of them in my house.
That'd be fat as fuck.
Well, would you? Because could you create it without absolutely...
Yeah. Without save the calories or something.
Earl Grey, hot.
Yeah.
Sex robot now.
Yeah. I mean, different. I don't know. It's a bit different. Why do you eat them?
Eventually.
There was a pause.
It's not my first move. It's not my first move.
Eventually. Hold on. We need to break this down. Eventually. Do you mean after? Because that's disgusting, Tony.
No, a part of, but it's not my early move. Never make it an early move.
I thought you could have a sex robot with the hair's edible.
Oh, God. I thought after he's done with it, it would be like some sort of degenerate profiterole.
It's hard to think.
You got to get rid of it somewhere. Think of the evidence.
So many topics that have been fucking mined and done to death by much greater minds than many creators.
And there's also those bits of sci-fi that you think that's never gonna happen. People aren't that stupid.
They are. Yeah. They are.
I think if any of us watch the film Idiocracy now.
Oh, that's just prophetic.
You think it's satirical and it's farcical, and now those sort of things are prophetic, aren't they? They are absolutely sort of like, you know, all bets are off. I think that's what anyone can say about sci-fi in the world now is like you can't. Although I said apart from time travel, I think most of it will be like, that'll be an eventuality. But I'll be dead before then. Do you know what I mean? You know?
We'll see.
Yeah.
What's your favourite sci-fi comic? Why don't you tell us in the...
Yeah, you didn't tell us.
Who are you talking to, Tony?
You.
Me?
Yeah.
Oh, God. It's too many, because a lot of the ones I'm... And
there's
also,
too many on there.
And also, like, some of the ones, like that Lizzie Parsec and stuff was a fantastic book. Like, recently I talked about. But I know I also had an amazing time binging the Black Science graphic novels.
Yeah,
and
that
I think that's a good one.
That is, you know, if you want proper good sci-fi, that
Superman's sci-fi, isn't he?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
There's
science fiction character with he defined the superhero thing. Before then, it was just
I'm still waiting for the book that comes out that really pops around originality. You know, we got these big, you know, I saw someone do an interview say, I'm known for high concepts. Are you really?
No, if people are saying they're known for high concepts, then like, it is truly one of those. You can't say it, other people have to see it.
Exactly.
You know what
I mean? Yeah.
But even that stuff, the high concept stuff like the Matrix, that's based on philosophy and musings that have been around for fucking forever.
Yeah.
So
and possibly Warren Ellis comics, but that's I think that's a call for a call to decide.
Not for us.
Yeah.
But in answer to your question, Pat, I don't think we've caught up with the future just yet. We've overtaken it in some ways, but thankfully, and I'm saying thankfully, we've still got a bit to go.
And the only road we've run out of is people with good ideas.
Yeah.
I think it's something that can be explored.
Yeah.
I don't think.
Yeah.
And it comes every so often. We'll get something, won't we?
Yeah.
We think, fucking, that's a great idea.
And certainly, especially in independent comics, it's usually a crime procedural book or some sort of thing like that. It's a science fiction concept, but it'll strike you because you'll be like, I can actually believe this could happen. Or would happen. It's like 5 degrees away from the real world. Do you know what I mean? Like take something like The Beauty, about the sexually transmitted disease that makes you beautiful.
Yeah, and that's a good idea.
And then you die. You know, all these people start dying.
Yeah.
It's like there's an element of realism and a spin on it that's like, oh, what that could.
A little bit of a lesson in there somewhere.
Yeah. And I think that's what a lot of science fiction can do, is teach us lessons, isn't it, and get us to think. And then sometimes you just want to see someone you just
sex robots,
fucking kill aliens. Not in that necessarily at the same time.
Well, you'd rather kill than fuck. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Christ.
No.
Well, yeah.
No. But yeah, I think
Great question.
Great question, and like I say, keep conversation going on the Slack, online, etc. I'm sure we'll have a few well thought out replies to this one, and I wonder who the celebrity will be next time.
Oh yeah,
they're fucking fine one.
Yeah, do you reckon we'll be able to get Carol Vorderman?
Yeah, undoubtedly. No, I can do that.
Or Jane.
Oh, imagine Jane.
Yeah, that'd be amazing.
Okay, from that then, to the rest of the show. What shout-outs have we got this week, gents?
I've just got one, actually. Well, I got one, and then one of my recommends is a shout-out. So Romo the Wolf Boy by Ilya is coming out by the creator of Skid Marks, Time Warp, The End of the Century Club, a dude who's been singing Crisis, Manga Mania, and Deadline Magazine. And it's an all-ages action-adventure spooky comedy.
Nice.
Anything by Ilya, I'm going to say, is worth your time. He's a good creator. He's been about for a long time, knows what he's doing. Great cartoonist. I love his black and white cartooning. You can register interest on the Kickstarter and pledge when it goes live. So go and look for that. Romo the Wolf Boy. Very good. It's my only one this week.
Nice. Dan, what have you got?
I've got a couple of Kickstarters. Catching Stars, issue 1. 1 man plus 1 intergalactic alien equals a big mess. That's got 24 days to go. Sailing towards its... Oh, it's only got £4 to its total. So
good.
Do go check that one out. Nice work. We've got Distinctly British Comics, a brand new exciting creator-owned cosmic comic with more bite than a British bulldog and more punch than a punch-drunk punk. Tried to catch me out and it didn't work. I did it.
It hasn't caught you yet. This is amazing.
That's a little shy of its goal, but there's absolutely like a whole slew of comics in there, and they look fantastic. It's good to see like new voices coming through on the UK scene. Archer's Comics, a new local comic shop in Truro, Cornwall. A friend of Rory, this one. Hot and Heels comic runner Scarborough comes. Archer's Comics opened on Free Comic Book Day on Saturday 3rd of May in Truro, Cornwall. Go upstairs, all the comics laid out. Great comic shop. 30 River Street, Cornwall, TR26 2SJ. I think they've got a Facebook page and a website, so go check
down that way soon. I might pop in. Yeah,
nice one.
Nice.
Cool.
Couple of weeks till Lawless, 24th, 25th of May, 2025. Doubletree by Hilton Hotel, Bristol, B51 6NJ. Hopefully we'll have a nice, lovely summer weekend like we did last year and this weekend. So good luck to that.
There's the Rich Sheaf has just put a great interview with Hunt Emerson up on his Boys Adventure page. So go and look at it.
Oh, nice one.
Yeah, because Hunt's going to be there.
Finally, I'm trying a new thing out on the Patreon, uploading brushes for Photoshop and Procreate.
Yeah, I saw this. Yeah.
So I'll take, if you want to see brushes of a certain type, I'll happily make them up for you. High quality.
Oh wow, okay.
Brushes for use in those programs. This week I did lens flares because a couple of people asked if I could do that, and I did it. So you can join up, become a Vanguard patron. You can download those brushes for use when you want.
Nice.
Cool, mate. Nice work.
What other brushes do you do? Do you like hair brushes, toilet brushes?
Well, the two I've got lined up is smoke. I've done like a lot of hand drawn.
You shouldn't do that, Dan. That's bad for you.
And the other one is cracks and rubble.
Oh, crack!
So if you want to stick in a load of destruction on your
you're basically just looking at cracks all the time. Is that what you're doing, Dan?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the kind of
is that like when you went over on the video the other day?
Yeah. Or are you creating cracks?
Go on. Any more for any more?
It's crevasse. Anyway, so from all of that to a bunch of comics for you all to add to your wish list. Check out.
That's not to add to your wish list.
Or to ponder as we
avoid.
So we'll save Dan's one. I think we'll save Dan's one to last. Should we do that, Tony?
Okay.
It's big deal, isn't it? So
the best
Tony,
till last.
Shall we play a bit? Of pickleball backwards and forwards, Tony?
I saw people playing pickleball today.
I know.
How weird is that? I've never seen it before.
I know. It's like quite a burgeoning sport, but how do you play it?
With pickles.
What the fuck's pickleball?
Oh no,
Tony, tell us your first comic.
My first one is this is the one that's kind of partly shout out because it's funding on Kickstarter at this moment. It's by our friends Avery. It's Acid Box. Acid Box, the item, is a magical neon box for time traveling ravers. So right up our street. This is a new release from Avery Hill. It's a massive read, very long book, well worth your time. $14.99, which is great value for this. I've got to tell you.
That's great value.
Written by Sarah Kennedy with art by. There's 4 chapters in this book. The first 2 chapters are written by James Devlin. chapter 3 is written by Emma Vicelli, and chapter 4 is written by is drawn by Ria Grix. Colours by Sophie Dodgson, letters by Hassan Otsami Alahu. There's a nice little introduction from Sarah where she explains in the text piece she was inspired to make this from her experiences in the early 90s in rave culture. I don't know if you two are old enough to remember that, are you?
What, rave culture?
Rave culture.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, I used to go fucking Dream All Nighter in Brixton.
What? I never liked rave.
With his white gloves and his whistle.
Look, I'm rock and metal, so I was never a raver. I wasn't having it large. Got any salmon Ebenezer good?
There was a girl I was going out with, she was massive into the rave scene, so I had to be for a bit.
So you had to be. You got to put in the work.
Yeah, I'm going to go and buy a whistle.
You put in the work and you get the rewards.
Yeah. Telling her he used to play in the farm, played bass for the farm. Yeah, so it was a hell of a thing. And she talks about the whole sort of scene culture and explains that this book was quite a long journey making it. And you'll see that the first, I think part of it is in the making of it is a couple of the artists dropped out, I think is a part of it. And I'll talk a little bit about it in a minute. It's all about the young people involved in that scene, but it's got like we said, it's got a sci-fi twist to it, which again is about, we're talking about rave culture, but they've sort of engaged with it within sci-fi. And it jumps back in time. It opens in Glasgow in 2024, and then it moves to a sort of nightmare that's going on in California before the team then introduce the creative team and introduce the cast for it. The first up is Jade. She's kind of the main character. Her brother is a guy called Rory. He's on crutches, so it's nice to see. I know that's something we've done, V, haven't we? We've purposely had somebody who isn't particularly able-bodied as a character, and I think it's important for representational purposes. Aaron is this sort of leery clubber. He appears. Fizzy is a girl clubber, and she time travelled from 1994. And they find this weird room, and in it is there's a bit of a set to it, a rave. Involving Rory, and they find themselves in this weird room with female entities. They call themselves liminals, and they control this sort of dimensional wormhole. One of them looks like Mrs. Slocum from Are You Being Served? So immediately you got my attention. And they operate in a sort of fancy-looking ladies' toilet, and Jade is given this acid box as per the title. I mean, the cover is the smiley face. Kind of, almost, it's got that sort of feel to it. The design stuff that went on around Acid House is a whole thing on its own. There's whole books that have talked about the posters and all this sort of thing that went on. And I love all that sort of thing. And the acid box is very dangerous. It looks like a mixing desk kind of thing, but it's missing 3 dials. And there's this character called the Angry Man, who's the sort of bad force that's going on. And Jade, Rory, and Fizzy get sent through time on a task. First landing to find these 3 missing dials for the machine, and they first land in a warehouse set up at a rave in Germany in 1994. The old Germans love to rave, don't they? Techno, they love all that, don't they? And they land in Piss Corner in this rave. Anyone who went to a proper warehouse illegal rave, they didn't used to lay on toilets. There used to be a corner that people used to go and pee in, and because you used to have to take on water, always take on water, and what it does, it did encapsulate a little mood and a little feeling that I certainly experienced. I wasn't really a raver, but I'd certainly seen it going on. And the story progresses, and you get some classic time travel storytelling as part of it, and you get some really nice character work, I have to say. I love a character that's got flaws. I think there's too many characters who just can do no wrong So you get a load of characters who are all fucked up, and then you get one who can do no wrong. That character does not exist in this book, and I loved it. They're all fucked up. They're all getting in trouble. You can see with it the artist changes. So James Devlin, he is by far my favourite artist in this. And he starts it with a real sense of personality in the characters. And I genuinely missed his hand in the later chapters. Next up is Emma Vicelli, and she's almost a little too glamorous. These characters are a little bit too glamorous for me in what she does. It's still very readable. And then it ends on this Rhea Grix who has, I'm going to say, slightly more literal style to her figure drawing, where James has more of a sort of caricature style to his. But saying that, he makes it sound like there's a sort of massive difference between the styles. There's not. And I think the thing that carries it through is the colorist. Let me remind you of her name. The colorist is Sophie Dodgson. I think she's definitely one of the MVPs in this because she keeps it consistent throughout. You get some nice little mystical foreshadowing. You get some sort of superpower thing going on, and you get a sense of who is who and who has to step up as it goes along. There's quite a lot of back matter in it. Nice little interviews. There's research on the use of MDMA for PTSD sufferers, which is quite an interesting element. I never heard of that. I know sort of if you read P-Cal and T-Cal by Alexander Shulgin, there's a lot of stuff in there about it. It's a really interesting area of chemistry, I suppose, if you want to call it that. There's some pieces on workshops and experiences in the scene, and facilitating change through art, which is kind of what she's doing here, but she's having a lot of fun at the same time. In the back, there's 9 different stories by other creators. Some of them quite lengthy. Some of them are an extension of the main story. Sulking Homes by Felicia Sikwala and Adrian Saridia Broly. It's probably my favourite. Just give that a shout out. And I say it's kickstarting at the moment. It's also, interestingly, on the back page, it's kickstarting, but it's also got a few other people who are involved in the funding. I think more the funding of the development of it than anything else. And you've got the Arts Council. You've also got the Royal Society of Chemistry who are involved in it. And I thought, oh, right, okay, that's all right. These people have done their work on this. That's quite good. It's just fun. I genuinely think from a sort of fun, good comicking, not the sort of edgy, weird stuff that we've seen, like Lord Herc, but I think for a no-brow comic, this is just a good, fun comic. I think people they might learn a little bit, but they'll have fun watching these clubbers on this sort of mystical, magical, sci-fi time travel journey going on. Yeah, it's a definite thumbs up for me on this one. So it's called Acid Box. Go to Kickstarter. It's funding right now. Go and do that.
Oh, that's
there you go.
Great.
That's my first one.
Nice. My first one brought to my attention when our pal Secret Identity Comics highlighted it in his upcoming comics. This title I've been meaning to check out. In Bloom from Boom Studios. There's been a couple of issues out of it. I went back and started at issue 1, which I've just finished. Speaking of strange sci-fi that's just left of normal, this is totally that. And it's very fungus orientated.
Okay.
Now, here's the synopsis. 43% of the cells within a healthy human body belong to something other than the human host. Microbiomes, invasive bacteria, fungal and viral agents, and something else, something more. When the bloom finally happened, humanity was changed forever, transformed by the symbiotic fungal megasystems that infected their bodies. Some of the affected grew new body parts. Some found their personalities changed in radical new ways, while others reported contact with an intelligence that was not their own. In this bold new world, Agent Spears finds herself investigating a series of mysterious murders, a chain of violence that lead her to a terrifying question on which the fate of every living being rests. Like I said, a procedural, wrapped up in a strange, messed up sort of science fiction world. Now, the series writer, which is Michael W. Conrad, art by Jason Pearson, with art assist by Lola Bonato, lettered by Pat Brosseau. This, I will say, on the article on Boom Studios, the writer says he basically came across an article about the human microbiome, and it's haunted him. Like every great sort of science fiction concept, it's usually based around an artist or writer seeing something and goes, oh, what if that's a bit terrifying? What if I just twisted that in some way?
There's the old rumor that John Wagner used to get a lot of his story ideas from the headlines in the papers or what it said on teletext.
Yeah,
it's a similar sort of concept.
If it works, it works.
Yeah.
But in Bloom, it's definitely like human beings are irrevocably changed, and it's almost like if you're a normal sort of human being, you're almost shunned in some sort of way, because everyone seems, a lot of people see like becoming these weird things, and it's such a wild range as well. There are people that just have growths and boils on their body. There are people that have like fungal like plates where their eyes should be. There are some that basically just like these large sort of masses of matter. And there's someone that actually their head is hollow, and they've got like a plant growing out in the middle of it. But all of these people seem to be quite pleased that they've been picked by the bloom in some kind of way.
All right.
The first issue kind of sets up. It's a really good setup of a world, I think, because you're sort of learning it through these two characters. The synopsis mentions one agent, and I read the synopsis afterwards. There's two agents in the first issue, and one of them's quite like a human who's always wearing like a mask and stuff. He hasn't been adapted by the bloom, and he doesn't want to be. His partner has like a part. She almost looks like she's got a flower stuck behind her ear. It's because there's a plant growing out of her head. But you can see that there's hints to his dark past, because half of his face is scarred, because he was in some sort of war that carved up his face. It looks like there's an R. He's almost like Jigsaw, like part of his face is, but because he's got this bandana pulled up and he's wearing glasses, so he covers it. And a lot of it is focused on him for the first issue, which is why when I read the synopsis, I was like, oh, it hasn't mentioned him. Oh, so does that mean he's not going to be in it much longer? Which is strange, because he's fascinating, because we're seeing the world through his eyes with a lot of the first issue, and they're trying to figure out people that have had there are people being murdered, people that have this bloom, and they've got this strange black flower sort of growing out of their mouths. So it's that procedural serial killer story based in this strange, unusual world that's futuristic, dystopian, not dystopian. There's a certain amount of, I don't know why I was getting like Soylent Green vibes. It's not so much like that, but there's a station where, like, when people want to give back to the community, when they think they're done with their life, they give themselves up to this sort of big. It looks like a factory, and it's like, oh, you're doing the best. Their life is ending, and it's all good for the community and what you're doing. And you kind of see this old lady that's being said goodbye. Her family signed her up, and they're like, "Thanks for everything, Grandma. We love you. You've been wonderful." And she looks pretty miserable through this whole process. And it gets to a certain point where she's like, "Actually, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this anymore. I want to live." And then you see what happens to her. It ain't good. It ain't good. Right. So you're seeing that everything seems to be nice, and then under the take away a layer, and there's some fucked up stuff happening. But I'm going to continue with this series. The art itself, there was a certain it had a real indie feel to it. I was taken by some of it because I thought, was there too much photo reference? There's
right
that it's got a kind of
like an Andrea Sorrentino kind of look.
Yeah, there's an element of Martin Simmons as well, but like
okay.
But obviously he does it on this one is. I mean, it's far from the majesty of R. Powell Martin's work, but it's still functional. There's like some effects and some line work. There's a couple of panels where characters are talking to each other where it's clearly there's been photo reference used, clear photo reference.
Okay, fair enough.
Not copying. I'm not going to say it's copying, but the only thing that caught me as I was reading it panel by panel is characters. It was almost like the artist wasn't quite sure where the characters were. Like two characters are walking side by side, left and right. And then when you've got a close-up on who they are, they're almost looking in the wrong direction. Okay. Or when it pans out, the speech bubbles are on a different direction. I was like, lots of people probably didn't pick up on that. But I was like, on this panel, they're stood next to each other like that. And on that panel, they seem to be mirrored. If they're in real life, they'd be just going zigzag. All the time, but that's just, maybe I'm being too picky. But but it did sort of take me out of it for a brief moment.
That's what the editor should be picking up.
Yeah,
yes, definitely, totally.
Yeah. But it's a lovely looking book. I'm gonna keep going with the story because I want to know, because you've learned a lot about the world, but little about the case. You're seeing enough because there are hints to something bigger going on. So In Bloom was like, yeah, okay, I'm interested to see where this goes. I've said many times though that I love an issue 1, and then I said recently that there's been a couple of issues that I've fallen off the wagon. So I'll give this one another 2 issues. I'm going to give it, unless it completely falls off on the second issue. I think I'll give it another 2, and then I'll know whether I'm in on it. But in Bloom, if you like those sort of tales,
comics ain't cheap. You got to do that sometimes.
Yeah, exactly. And it's a Boom. I mean, I got it digitally, but a Boom Studios book also, when it's slightly up, even if it's a couple of months old, it's still not. They're not selling them for £1. Do you know what I mean?
Right. Okay.
You still got to pony up a little bit. So yeah, that's my first one. So what's your second one, Tony?
My second one is very kindly sent in by Hannah, and it's Toxic Avenger, the pin-up special, issue 1, 32 pages out of Ahoy Comics. Cover by Fred Harper. It's a wraparound cover. Classic Troma. Are you guys Troma fans?
Oh, there's been some
massive.
Yeah, not massive. I've read a bunch. Rabid Grannies, classic.
Yeah. So the Toxie's standing at the toilet urinal doing a wee, and the dude next to him is just staring at Toxie's junk. You don't see it, but he's sort of staring down at it, and you can just see through the legs of Toxie that it's just this green fucking mess pouring out of him. It's really good. Shannon Wheeler, actually, who does Too Much Coffee Man, has done a variant for this. That's a good choice for me. I know big shout out to Stuart Moraine, because I know he's a big Too Much Coffee Man fan. This is a pin-up special book, but thankfully it has a comic in it as well. Put it that way. It's kind of like the first issue for what they're calling Toxic Mess Summer, with a hashtag, which is the invasion of all these Toxic Avenger comics. The next one's going to be Toxic Avenger Team Up, which is Toxic Avenger and Jesus Christ. And then that's going to be something to watch, isn't it? And then to read. And then you've got Toxic Avenger Comics, which is going to follow it straight away after that. So the short story in it is called It's a Girl by Matt Bors, Fred Harper, who did the cover, Lee Lowridge, he's a class act, and Rob Steen. And Yvonne, who's the girl in the Toxic Avenger world, she starts coming onto Toxie while he's cleaning a toilet. But the moment is ruined when he pulls a massive multi-teated rat monster out of the can. And then they kill the monster, and it's mutant children. And Yvonne keeps hitting Toxie to have sex with him. And it's a nice it's very Richard Corbin, actually. I found a little Corbin vibe out of it, which is nice. It's on the emails, guys. So you'll be able to find it there. Have a look for it. It's basically a fun little teaser issue, I'm going to say, for a series that's upcoming. So there's no massive amount of comics in it, but it has got some class act pin-ups. I hope that. So I'm going to say now what I hope they do from the Troma Comics stable. This is my hope list. So I hope they do Biker Chicks in Zombie Town, Stone Cold classic. Class and Newcomb High.
Yeah.
Sergeant Kabuki Man is a must. Do, I'm going to say. Surf Nazis Must Die. It's a little bit of an outlier. Romeo and Juliet, because they're about to release a new Romeo and Juliet movie, aren't they, in Hollywood? So I think Tromeo and Juliet is a must-do. And Nymphoid Barbarians in Dinosaur Hell, I think it's going to work well. I think that'll be a great.
I think they should totally do that, because obviously Tromeo and Juliet. What big summer blockbuster has a link to that this year?
Oh, I don't know. Go on.
James Gunn wrote Tromeo and Juliet.
Of course he did. Oh, wow. Fucking hell, because he was a Troma guy originally.
He's a Troma guy, and now, of course, in case you didn't know, people, he's directing Superman, and I fucking love most of his films, to be fair. So, he loves that sort of gore exploitation and all that shit. It's just,
yeah. I forgot all about. I thought he was connected to that. Yeah. But so there's some pin-ups in here. I'll just drop some of the names. You got Chris Giarusso. He does a double pager. That's Morissette. Carol Lay does a sort of ballet themed, which is sort of Toxie as a ballet dancer. Tristan Wright does a very metal hurlant, heavy metal kind of thing. Jay Gonzo's in it. I like Jay Gonzo's work. I know him through 11 O'Clock Comics. Jan Skonek, it's got Toxie in kind of a twisted Snow White scenario. That's very current, isn't it? And then Greg Scott and Lee Lowry do the sort of Black Lagoon monster from the Black Lagoon crossover, but the monster from the Black Lagoon is clearly a lady monster from the Black Lagoon looking to hit on Toxie. But nothing about Tremor Studios makes any fucking sense, to be fair, and I don't want it to. And I just kind of like that schlock trash cinema aesthetic being thrown a bit into comics. And I think I kind of like that. We saw a lot during the 80s and 90s, didn't we, in some of the smaller publishers making this sort of stuff. And there's a place for it. There's a place for it for us old blokes who remember these fucking terribly shit films, but they've got a fun element to them. You can go to toxicavenger.com. Find out more about this one. There you go. It's my second one.
Oh, I
nice. Check that out. And my second one, just quickly, before we get onto the pièce de résistance, is from Image Comics, a new one, Blood and Thunder, which came out this week. This is from Benito Cereno, is the writer. E.J. Su is the artist. Fucked up the colorist name. MSASSYK. Apologies to them. They do brilliant work, I will say. Russ Wotton, letterer. This was created by Robert Kirkman, Benito Cereno, and E.J. Su. What is this? Bounty hunter Akeldama Bledsoe and her cantankerous talking gun, Thunder, are the best out there at bringing in the bad guys. However, when the galaxy's most dangerous criminal breaks out of prison, Blood's hunt delivers her down a path that will unlock secrets about her past, present, and future. And that's when things get really bad. I saw this, and the ads basically said, do you want to see a sci-fi about a badass bounty hunter and her talking gun? And I was like, okay, well, I'm getting this then, aren't I?
This isn't part of his sort of superhero universe, is it? Because I know he's just done it. Is it Battle Beast or something?
Yeah, no, it's not. I know Battle Beast is obviously the Invincible one. Blood and Thunder is it's an original sci-fi. I mean, when we're talking about spaceships, aliens, alien planets, it's all of that kind of thing.
Right.
This was created. It is a rollicking adventure story. It took me a couple of pages to get into the tempo of it. I think on a reread that won't be the problem, because I read this immediately after In Bloom. And do you know what I mean?
Has this just come out, by the way?
This has just come out this week.
Oh, cool. I'll have a look at this. Yeah. Okay.
So do you know what I mean? When you go from one sort of sci-fi to another, it took me like a couple of pages. But this is like the bounty hunter herself. The visual of her was strange because I couldn't get her hair. Her red hair seems to be moving by itself. You see it and afterwards you realise that she has no hair. Her hair is almost like a symbiotic blood-like substance that's constantly moving like liquid around her head. And her gun, which is Thunder, was it is literally a gun that her dad used to have back in the day, who's since passed. That will obviously be a story that comes out, but it's the first generation of that particular gun that these sort of cops and stuff had, and the first generation almost seemed to get a sense of conscience. So when she's hunting down one of the her targets and she's about to kill them, the gun's like, she's like, use a flamethrower or whatever. It's like, no, I'm not going to do that. It's like, no, you have to do that. He's about to pull a gun. It's like, no, I'm not letting you kill anyone. So she has to choose a different thing to fire at him. So it's almost like a buddy comedy between a bounty hunter and their gun. And there's a bigger story going on there's a galactic prison. Well, there's like a space prison, which is housing something quite awful that by the end of the issue breaks out. So we're going to see. I think there's going to be huge monsters, big sci-fi action, interesting characters. Interesting. There's a bit from Kirkman. Kirkman's very invested in this one.
Right.
And there's a bit in the back. He was talking about that this. It came about years and years ago, where he had an idea. Someone said, as he says here, someone said "ooh la la" around me, and I thought, hey, that'd be a cool alien name. Ooh la la, sort of like a Star Wars name. It sounds cool. So he called up a writer and said, have you any interest in writing a comic about an attractive space lady named Ooh la la? And And like this went along for a while, and it was going to be called Ooh La La Space Police, which he says, yeah, I know, not the greatest title, but it seemed cool at the time. Unfortunately, this was around the same time that The Walking Dead was getting made into a TV show, and I was moving to Los Angeles, and things were pretty hectic. So unfortunately, Ooh La La Space Police sort of sat on the shelf indefinitely. Cut to a few years later, he went back to it and said, look, do you want to do another take on this? And it, like, instead of Ooh La La, she's now called Blood, and she has a talking gun called Thunder, and it becomes something else. And it's just that, I just love that, you know, I mean, Kirkman, he's got an empire. Do you know what I mean? Let's not. He does have an empire, and yet there's still that. I've got a great comic idea. Should we just make this comic? He still fucking loves the comics, and he did say right at the end, he goes, "Now this is a book that we've been working on behind the scenes for a number of years, so expect us to ship monthly like clockwork for a good long time."
Oh, good news.
Which I think's interesting for a new series, rather than being like
making that promise.
Instead of like
intent.
Instead of let's give it 6 issues and see how well it does. It's like they've probably got like 12 issues in the can, probably. From a statement like that. So, Blood and Thunder, it's just worth checking out if you like sort of sci-fi.
You think that would like help readers keep on board with it, thinking, right, this isn't just going to get fucking shot in the back of the head after 3 issues.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's actually got some legs to it, so get invested in it.
And much like the Skybound stuff with the Energon Universe, it has that Energon Universe sort of energy to it as well, that sort of sci-fi. It really does. It fits well. The Skybound are just kicking out the jams at the moment. And this is that. If you like that kind of storytelling, if you like that kind of energy, this is an original one that I think will be up the street. So that's mine, Blood and Thunder. And
good stuff, man.
Dan.
Finally, mine is, I don't think the book's out yet, but some cheeky chappy put it all on Twitter because he's a Liefeld hater. Is Youngblood 1 2025.
I think I saw that. That's out of order, isn't it? Putting it all out.
That is absolutely out of order.
I feel like he's got strong opinions on the subject because it's 32 pages of the laziest dog shit and absolute embarrassment of the medium.
That's what this guy says, not Dan Butcher.
Yeah. So I like I said, I haven't read the book, but like I had a couple of things that I thought, right, this is what I'm going to see in a Youngblood comic. One, they're going to be jumping out of a ship. Like every fucking Youngblood comic starts them going somewhere in a ship and they jump out and fight someone. That always happens. So that was one. Second one was there's going to be no backgrounds, virtually minimal drawing, no backgrounds. It's all going to be lent on by the colorist. And third one, they're going to get attacked by a villain who looks like someone else from another comic. How many of those 3 do you think I was right on?
All of them?
All 3. All 3. So they're flying along. I can't read the thing, but then they jump out in a ship. A character that comes along and looks a bit like Deadpool attacks them, and then that's the end of the comic. And it's like, I just
giving the fans what they want.
Yeah, it fucks me up, Liefeld, because like someone posted up in our Slack early about a week or 2 ago, like Liefeld's drawings when he was 14, 15, 16 years old, and they really fucking show promise of like, if this guy keeps on fucking working, he's gonna be like he could be one of the big names. And like I think he had his eye on.
Well, I mean, let's face it, he is. He still is.
Yeah, but not for loving him or hating him, he has got a name for himself. Man, I just fucking find it frustrating. The man's just, I don't know what to say about him.
There's the thing for me is with him. There's a lot of energy there. It's just he's not putting the work in it. Sometimes I love his energy about him, and occasionally I make him right about what he says about stuff. I know his sort of commentary on the X-Men recently I've been in agreement with, and then that comes out and you think. It kind of like it sort of upturns the fact that you've got this sort of valid reasoning going on when you're producing crap like this. Yeah, he is better than that.
He is better than this. It comes across as lazy, and he's not bothering. And it's he seems to be right on quite a few things. That X-Men take spot on. It's like, okay, he's got a point there. And then you bring this out. So is this the antidote to what you was complaining about? Because it's not it. I don't want to be one of those people that sort of like, they kind of like got a bit of a grip going where they just shit on all this stuff saying, oh, this is crap. Here's the antidote, like my comic. I'm going to do what these guys aren't. And then they bring out some of the worst fucking shit ever. That is what this feels like, and it's just yeah. But, to be fair, that guy putting all the pages on Twitter, people who are going to buy it are going to buy it anyway. Regardless who's done that.
Yeah. But
people are going to.
I'll be honest with you. I'm tempted. I don't know why. I just kind of tempted to see it somehow.
Fucked myself because that Youngblood 1 Deluxe. I thought that's what this was.
Right. I wondered if you thought that, and I didn't really know what was going on there, so you had to explain it to me. Yeah.
Yeah. So I shit the bed there, which was great. I love shit in my bed. So it's just like all Youngblood 1 Deluxe was taking a load of pages out of previous Youngblood comics, putting them together to make a new issue 1 from the old material. And it's bizarre because that thing starts where it's introducing another team of superheroes in the first 5 pages. Can you imagine that if you did like a comic, sort of Vince Hunt's sort of Blood Young, and then the first 5 pages were another super team that had nothing to do with the main characters you're trying to introduce. It's bizarre.
And I kind of sense that with him, it's like he's playing with action figures a lot of the time.
Yeah,
and he just gets a bit bored and moves on to something else. Yeah,
it's kind of like I'm just going to do this, and
and his name's always funny. Like for instance, if it wasn't a band, then Smash Mouth definitely would have been a Liefeld character.
I found out something during the week. You know the Mission Impossible films, when they start shooting, they they don't have a script, so they just kind of
sort of work it around set pieces, don't they?
Yeah, and I feel like that's what the Liefeld. He seems to have this singular vision of like the comic starts with the Youngblood in the jet, and they're all like, "We're going to take these bad guys out. They're really fucking bad," and then they all jump out, and then have a fight, and then the next issue he's like, "Oh, I didn't do that quite right. I've got to do it again." And then
I mean the difference is when it comes to those Mission Impossible films, no matter what you feel about them, there is some highly talented, extremely skilled script writers who are there to weave stuff in between and do dialogue and stuff.
Most of them are fun. I enjoy most of them.
Like is it Christopher McQuarrie? He's the one that does a lot of them now. He did Where the Gun. You ever seen that Del Toro?
I like that movie.
Yeah, he did that one. He's a really good writer.
That's got a great opening, that film.
Yeah.
There's a couple that have been really liked, but I really didn't like that last one, Dead Reckoning.
That got a bit of a bad name, didn't it? But
a bit of a bore fest.
He's done all right though, and bearing in mind, there's a lot of people who took the piss out of Tom Cruise for his religion and all that sort of jumping up and down on sofas. He's kept his head above water, hasn't he? Around it all.
Yeah, man. That whole thing about when he fucking gave everyone the rollicking on set during COVID. I was like, man, I make you right.
Yeah.
You're a privilege to be here, and like we need to pay attention to these rules, otherwise we can get shut down.
It's like that can't happen. Why would people act like doing something that's in the interests of like grander safety be a stupid thing to do? Do you know what I mean? Yeah.
It's that old school Hollywood stuff of like the leading man was also like led the fucking film, and set the tone for the film, and it's like this is going to be done this way.
Yeah. But the Mummy's still rubbish. Anyway, so have you read Youngblood number 1? Did you like us? Let us know, and get prepared for Blood Young number 1, which is going to be out later in the year.
I did that parody years ago. Do you remember that? I think it was like Kill Blood, and I've done a mashup, and he's like standing on top of a roof, and it's like hologrammatic 3D blood edition.
Amazing 3D blood edition. But there's no special holochromatic versions of this show. It's just the same old bollocks every week. And we will be back next week for even more. And we hope you've enjoyed. I mean, we always have great fun talking to each other, and it's always fascinating the topics that we talk about. Keep the questions and comics coming in. If there's anything you want to discuss more, then keep the conversation going. There's several different ways you can get in touch with us. You can email us, awesomecomicspod@gmail.com, on social media, at awesomecomicspod on Instagram, at the Awesome Pod on X, when we're not checking out the latest Rob Liefeld comic. This is some wanker has posted up like an absolute arsehole. Thank you for listening to us, whether it was on the website awesomecomics.podbean.com, on Apple Podcasts. Leave a review, subscribe. Helps get the word out about the show and everything we talk about on a weekly basis. Much like Spotify, you can say nice things on there as well, I believe. And we're also on like Amazon, Stitcher, Podnose, Podknife. What are the networks we on, Tony?
We're on the network. Did you know that Alec Baldwin's got 6 kids? Wow. I knew he never fired blanks.
Oh, Jesus Christ. That is... I mean, I've heard some shit, but that's in poor taste.
What, me?
Speaking of you, though, Tony, where can people find you online, etc.?
Neveronanything.com or Tony Ez on Substack.
Nice. Dan, where can they find you?
You can read Vanguard on vanguardcomic.com. The Patreon's going to be updated with the Proof Amended issue 24. You can also join along as I set about creating the next Green Archer comic for Green Archer Comics.
Oh,
nice.
Ben and Alan Liska. It's good. Shape up to be a good comic.
Nice. And you can find me on social media at Jester Diablo. Thank you very much for listening, everyone. As always, we really appreciate it because we're just having fun every week. So join us back next week for whatever nonsense we've got coming then. It's not nonsense. It's all comics. So get your wish list ready because we're going to add to them. And from Dan, Tony, and myself, have a brilliant week. Keep reading comics. Keep making loads of comics. And then when you make those comics, let us know about them so we can share out about them, etc. And while you're doing that, what else should they do, guys?
Stay awesome.
Stay awesome.
See ya.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye. What the fuck's Pickleball?